Hi everybody, my name is Alex Smith and I am a special education teacher. I also have a degree in speech pathology and I currently am teaching kinder through 5th grade in a specialized autism classroom. I have posted some other videos, so hopefully you've seen them, but my goal with this is just to post something quick to help families continue their students' learning across a variety of areas with academics, life skills, behavior, communication, social emotional, just anything we can do to help you use what you already have, emphasis already have in your house, to help your students keep their skills and maybe even continue growing. I think it's a tough time, and I don't think any teacher's relying on parents to teach new content, but if we can help our students, especially our young learners and those with special needs, retain the skills they already have, that would just be awesome, right? So we're just coming together, hopefully gonna power through this. So my first video was based on morning meeting and how you could facilitate that in your home with, again, what you already have. My second video was, on letter recognition. I had to think about that and different ways you can practice letters around your home. Today, what I would like to do is kind of move towards math, the math side of things, and I wanted to offer a few suggestions or strategies with adding, okay? So again, when we think about adding and the skill, the way I presented this material is geared more towards young learners, so pre-K, kinder, first, second, and those with special needs. However, when I do these videos, I'm hoping I present things in a way or strategies that you could utilize across a wide range of students with their needs, okay? So what I did was I created a Google slide, which when this video is done, I plan to upload to Facebook so that you can utilize it yourself. This is an interactive Google slide, meaning that your kids aren't going to just be sitting there and watching. The intent is that they are going to be doing things themselves and that through their actions, they'll be able to move throughout the presentation, okay? So I am going to keep on going here. So as I scroll through the presentation, you'll notice that I have some visuals and some words. Sorry, sometimes I just don't want to overwhelm with what I'm saying. So what I want to say is in my classroom with my kiddos with special needs, we call these addition problems with visuals. These are visual addition problems. So what that means is there's not a lot of words. However, with that said, as my students build skills, a lot of times there are word problems embedded into these visuals. So for example, it might say, Jane has 3 flowers. Mark has 1 flower. How many flowers do they have all together? Okay. My thought, however, is with this being such a new and unique situation for everyone involved, parents, students, and teachers, the less the better. That's what everyone keeps saying, the less the better. So I didn't feel that word problems for especially our young learners and our learners with special needs is as crucial as the addition skills itself. So I decided not to include word problems. With that said, if your student flies through these and you want to embed word problems where you have keywords such as all together or some, that is by all means your decision and you go for it. But for this presentation, I thought less is more, and let's go from there. So what you'll see is we have our number 1. Maybe your students that are just learning to read, they're going to see that visual and they're going to think 1. Oh, well, this is the letter F, which says f, f. So they're going to start to associate that word as first. First, we're going to count 2. Then we're going to solve. So those are directions that you could read aloud, or like I said, maybe your student is starting to kind of recognize the visual with the word and connecting the two. So they're going to come over here and you might challenge them by saying, what is that visual? And with their words, by holding, if we also talk about a field size of 2, so you could hold up 2 pictures. One includes a flower and maybe one includes a dog. So if your student has limited communication, you can test their knowledge on vocabulary by holding up 2 pictures and saying, what is this? And they would take a picture of a flower to show you their knowledge that they're looking at a flower in their math problem and not a dog. So there's just different ways to test your child's vocabulary, whether that's, we say, expressive in a field size of 1 or receptive in a field size of 2. Okay, so that's just, if you've already seen my videos, I'm sorry, that's kind of backtracking, but just in case. So you're saying first we're going to count, we're going to come over here, and I'm going to model for you as if you have a student that's able to rote count independently. So they're going to touch and they're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. So you might model for them 3 plus 1 equals what? And they're going to say 4. I do want to point out, for me to make this video, I couldn't do it in a presentation mode, so I have to do it in this, which means I'm going to have to click down here. When you have this link, you will not need to click down here. Once you click the number, it will automatically take you. Okay, so 3 plus 1 equals, and they said 4. That's automatically going to take you, this is where it becomes interactive, to the next slide that says you did it. Okay. And from there, they're going to click the green arrow. Again, you will not have to click this, but because I can't go in the presentation mode, I have to click it. But you'll click this button, and it will take you to the next problem. I'm going to go back to that problem that we just did. The first thing I want to talk about is what if your student does not yet know how to rote count or count out loud? There's a few ways that you can still complete this with them. There's what's called a partial prompt. So you might do a hand under hand, which just means that your hand is hovering underneath of your student's hand. Okay, you're guiding them to point the images. So together you might point this first one and you might say 1. And with that prompt, they might know to then count and go 2, 3, 4. So you gave them the partial prompt, or kind of the kickstart, to count the first number, and once they hear that 1, it's like with the alphabet. Once they hear the A, they know to sequentially go in order to the next number. So you gave them the partial prompt 1, and they independently go 2, 3, 4. That is one way you can do it. If your student is nonverbal or limited in communication, what you can do, a lot of kiddos, you might hand under hand touch the first one and say 1 aloud, and then continue to tap the other numbers without saying anything. And then once they tap the last number, you might hold up 2 flashcards in a field size of 2. One might have a 4, one might have a 2, and you might say to your student, how many did you just count? And they might take the number 4, okay? I'm not saying this is this is 100% how it will go accurately every time. I'm just telling you, with my students in my classroom who have limited verbalizations, that is one way we test them. So they're able to point and count in their head, and the way they show us their knowledge is by either using their communication device to select the number, which I know a lot of families probably don't have those in this time. They're probably still in your school. Or by holding up 2 number flashcards and saying, how many did you count? Okay, so again, your student might be able to count these independently. You might need to do hand under hand for the first one, 1, to give them a jump start, and they go on 2, 3, 4. Or maybe there's 2 options with this. Maybe they are limited expressive, or maybe they genuinely have not learned to count yet. So you genuinely might be counting hand under hand with them, saying the numbers aloud. So I'm taking my student's finger and I'm saying 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. And maybe as they start to grow, maybe you're starting to notice that they're at right here starting to say 4. So maybe the next time you're hand under hand saying 1, 2, 3, and then allow them to say 4. So you're fading off as they find success. Okay, those are all different ways to practice counting with your student. There's no right or wrong. This is just practicing. So there's no hurting your student, right? But the key is, once you start, especially with our students with special needs, once you start to, you work with them enough and you know their skills, and you start to sense the things that they're gaining strength in, like if they were starting to recognize, well, after 3 comes 4, I might not say 4 with them. I might let them do that independently. Okay, it's kind of like taking the training wheels off of a bike. I might support them in the beginning, get their muscle memory, and their recognition going, and then I'm going to fade at the end because I already gave them that push, that go to start. Okay, so anyways, so that's how you would do it. Let's pretend again that they solved it correctly. You can count the variety of ways. They say 4, they take 4 on the flashcard, they use 4 as their communication with their communication device. Maybe they're sitting there while you're watching TV and they don't even need you, and they're just pressing 4, okay? So there we go. Remember, that button won't be there, but that's gonna guide them to the next problem. Beautiful. What if, though, they got it wrong? Let's say that, let's say you just want to put this in front of your student and see what their skills are, right? So you might guide them through this activity, and then you might just sit back and kind of observe. There's nothing wrong with that. So you might just want to observe your student do this independently, and they might be as happy as can be, and they're just over here picking a number. 3 + 1 = 2. Are you sure 3 + 1 = 2? Yeah, it's 2. Okay, let's find out. Okay. 3 + 1 isn't 2, so we were so close, we are going to try that again, right? So nothing negative, we're just trying again. So we're going to click that blue arrow, and it's going to take you back to the problem that you just worked on. From there, what I would suggest, if your student, and there's a difference in this, if your student is, if you notice, consistently erroring, so if they're going through, I'm going to move this over. If they are going through these problems and you're noticing, oh boy, 3 in a row, they just erred. They didn't get right independently. That might be when you're kind of like, okay, I'm going to do this hand over hand or hand under hand, and we're going to count together. I'm going to model for my student rote counting. I'm going to model that from here. Some students might say 1, 2, 3. They see the next row and they say 1. Okay, they don't know that we're continuing on because the symbol of plus means to group together, to continue on, to find the sum. If you're noticing that they're consistently erroring 3 problems in a row, that's when you would want to go back, and you almost want to make it errorless. So you might do hand under hand. Maybe you're modeling for them. Maybe they're not even solving on their own, and maybe you're sitting there and you're acting like you're the first grader doing this, okay? Making it as errorless as possible to build that skill. The reason I also emphasize that is because none of our students are used to receiving all of their academics at home, right? This is new water for all of us. And we're just kind of trying to tread it and see what we can do. So with that said, especially with our students with special needs and our young learners, kiddos with undesirable behaviors, we do not want to push them off the deep end when something is new and hard. If anything, you want to make it as successful as possible in the beginning. So if I notice my student who might struggle with engaging with learning in general, but I know we're not going to take 4 months off of work or school, I need to be presenting something to them, and I bring this out and I know it's already not going to be a preferred task, I'm going to make sure that they are getting it successfully. They're doing it successfully every time. And I'm going to, when they select that 4, I'm going to be giving them high fives. I'm going to be, doing a little woohoo dance, and I'm going to be bringing out my teacher clown to keep them engaged and to help them feel proud. To what we say is to increase that internal motivation. So instead of external reinforcers, you're trying to increase their internal reinforcers, which as a teacher, that's our long-term goal for any of our students, right? So when they get it right, you're going to praise, praise, praise. And if the only way they're going to get it right for right now is by you modeling or you hand under hand, or even if you don't need to touch their hand, they're tapping, but you're counting along with them, that's okay. Let's find a way to get these kiddos engaged and willing to work at home, okay? These videos aren't necessarily geared towards all students. What my goal is to help those kiddos that have special needs that maybe don't engage well with learning yet. And so that's why I wanted to emphasize on that. There's nothing wrong with making it errorless and helping them succeed through that. Okay, so as you do that, so remember, if they press the wrong answer, it's going to take you to, you are so close. There's nothing wrong with that. Give me a high five. Let's try that again. You're going to click the blue arrow, and it's going to take you right back to the problem. As you'll see later on, I think I did 10 total problems. The problems go from vertical to then horizontal. And the reason for that is we want our students to be able to generalize their skills of adding, which just means that no matter what format a problem is given, they're able to recognize these symbols and they're able to know, I know what I'm doing, right? You can't fool me. It doesn't matter which order you put these numbers in, and if it's vertical or horizontal, I know exactly what to do. So teachers, we purposefully switch up the order of these problems and how they are arranged in order to ensure that our students have generalized their skills and truly have mastered. So you'll notice that when I put these through, they will be set up in different forms, and that's intentionally. So nothing different, right? You're going to do it the exact same way. They might do it independently with counting. You might prompt. One thing I did want to say too is if you have a student that you notice is starting to learn to rote count. So they might go 1, 2, 3, but from there they go 1, 2, 3, 5, which is just more of a habit-based, right? The best thing I can relate that to is when you think about the alphabet and kids are like A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, and like L, M, N, O, P are mushed into this one letter because, you know, I don't know, the first time they heard it, that's just the beat of that part, and then it becomes a habit. So it's just more of breaking a habit. So I just wanted to touch on if you do find that your student is in this weird habit of rote counting where maybe they are mixing a number or they're skipping a number. So if I know my student has 1, 2, 3 mastered, meaning I do not worry about them saying that successfully on a consistent basis. However, 5 times out of 10, they go from 1, 2, 3 to 5. I know that I need to break that cycle, right? So one way that you can easily do that is if you know your students, which you know them better than anyone, right? Parents know their kiddos better than anyone. If you know that that's their habit, all you need to do in a consistent manner is if they're counting and doing these problems on their own, they're going 1, 2, 3, you better believe that I'm on the edge of my chair and I'm ready to say 4 before they can say 5. Does that make sense? So it's a little goofy. It's kind of like being a coach in some weird way. But so if they're saying 1, 2, 3, you're going to catch them by saying 4 yourself before they can even get 5 out. And then you're going to go 4, 5. So you're going to kind of model these 2 numbers before they can say the errored number. Okay, so I hope that helps. Just in case anyone ever saw that pattern at their home with their student, I hope that little tip helps you. Just correcting them after enough times being corrected and the consistent practice, they will get it. Don't worry. So again, these are just horizontal. There's nothing different about that. What I do want to say is that you will notice that all of these problems, I'm going to move it over again. All of these problems have sums 10 and below. The reason for that, students in my classroom, many students in my classroom are able to solve addition problems above 20. However, with that said, we have not been in school since March 6th. Due to spring break and then COVID-19. We haven't seen each other. So again, tying back to everything I said about before about increasing success and increasing independence and increasing just being proud, the students being proud of themselves. Start it small, right? So there's nothing wrong with taking a couple days. If this is review for your student, if these problems are review, there is nothing wrong with doing that for a couple days. They're not used to doing this stuff at home, unless you're some rock star parent where you've been doing that already. Praise you, because Lord. But if you have already been doing this, go you. But if you have not, no worries, right? It's okay to backtrack and practice with lower problems, okay? Take your time, ease back into it, increase success, increase motivation, and increase their willingness to engage in these problems. The other thing I wanted to point out really quickly, specifically with these visual addition problems, and maybe you caught on, but all of the visuals are spring related. So I intentionally put things that hopefully, if you watched my morning meeting video, we talk a lot about the weather, okay? So you're talking about what's the weather outside. You're looking at the weather forecast. You're learning how to dress. You might be talking about spring showers, spring May flowers. So I tried to pick visuals that they could then relate to in a different area of content. So that would be life skills or science. So you're pointing out this, like we said before, you're increasing vocabulary while completing math problems. So you're labeling the images. You're saying this is a flower. What color is the flower? It's pink. Oh, but look in the middle. The middle looks like it might be brown, and the flower is a circle. So I'm increasing the vocabulary, right? You're providing that for your student. As you go through, you might say, well, what do we need for a flower to grow? We might need rain. Well, if it rains, what do you wear? Well, we have to wear our rain boots. And if it's raining, we might need an umbrella. If it's raining, sometimes we see a rainbow. Well, for a rainbow, you still need the sun. Well, let's go back to that flower. What do we need for a flower? We said we need rain, but you also need a seed. But to plant a seed, you need a shovel. Sometimes when you use a shovel, you might find bugs. And you just go on and you use so you're using these visuals that are tied to something they can relate to in the moment, which honestly, the best thing I could come up with for right now was spring, okay? Hopefully everyone's getting outside. Hopefully everyone can see. Some days it's been rainy, some days it's been sunny. It's actually a great time of year to be teaching weather to your kids. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do, that is visual addition. I'm hoping I didn't miss anything. The other thing I wanted to touch on, give me a second. Okay, I think I have to keep it like this. The other thing I wanted to touch on is called TouchPoints. Well, there you go. The other thing I wanted to touch on is TouchPoints. TouchPoints is just another tool that you can use with your students to learn addition. Specifically, this is a great tool for students with special needs who are even older students with special needs who are learning to push into the community. And I know that that's not happening right now, or it should not be, right? But this is a great tool that you literally, if you just Google TouchPoints, go to Google Images and type in TouchPoints, you can find visuals for this anywhere. They come in long skinny strips, which a lot of my students, we laminate those. They could easily fit in your wallet. It is even if your student doesn't have special needs and they're just learning to add, this is just another tool. It could be related to the holding up your fingers while adding. So if I'm doing 2 + 1, I'm going to say 2 and hold up a 1 with my finger to count on to 3. It's just another way to do that. But I like to think of it as a less, this could carry on to a lot of job skill and life skill things for our students with special needs. Like I said, it just fits right in a wallet. So this is one I found on Google. When I show you the problems that I created, I only focused on 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. The reason for that is I really don't want these videos to go as that long. But I will touch on 6, 7, 8, and 9. TouchPoints only goes up through those numbers because you're using the single digit numbers to add on to other numbers. When you see a circle, that means you're counting on. When you see a circle with a ring, that means you're counting twice. So essentially with 6, 7, 8, and 9, the majority of their points you're counting on twice, okay? But for this example, as just another way to increase your students' math skills, giving them different strategies and different tools in their toolbox, for today I just wanted to focus on 1 through 5. Okay, so I created this quick Word doc just to kind of model TouchPoints for you. What you'll notice is, okay, so here's 3 problems. TouchPoints, it's one word. What you'll notice is we have a lot of fancy laminated problems in my classroom with TouchPoints, with pre-made things. However, honestly, grab a piece of paper, grab a whiteboard, do it in some shaving cream on the table. Do it with sidewalk chalk. You can make up problems up on the fly is what I'm trying to say. So don't worry about that. But I just created this really simple Word doc to show you guys. What I do want to point out, especially with our students with special needs, you might see these lines going throughout the page. I very much encourage you to lessen the visuals in front of your students with special needs or your young learners. So if they can just see one problem in their screen versus 3, that's extremely helpful for them. And that is way more visually appealing to just see one. So I wanted to model that for you. If you're using a piece of paper, you can fold it into thirds, 1, 2, 3, right? Or you can cut along these lines. Or maybe you're using a whiteboard if you're lucky to have a whiteboard at home. Maybe you're only writing one problem at a time. My point is, less is more. So maybe you're doing 6 problems total for the day, but you're only displaying 1 at a time. And then as your students show success with not only engaging in longer activities, but in this specific activity, you can maybe put 2 problems out at a time and build from there. Okay, how this works. So you would say to your student, or they would say out loud, 3 plus 7. You'll notice on all of these problems, the dots are on the lesser number, the smaller number. The reason for that there's no right or wrong. My theory is why count 7 dots when you can just count 3? So if you're teaching your student which number is less and which is more, they're learning which number to count on from because this is the smaller number, right? Why count 7 when you can only count 3? So 3 plus 7. Okay, well 7, 8, 9, 10. So your student's going to come over here, hopefully, and they're going to write the number 10. Notice the lines that I put. That is just a prompt, just another strategy to give your students in order to give them support in where to place things, okay? So whether they're writing, whether they're taking letter magnets and putting it there, maybe they are writing in shaving cream, or again with sidewalk chalk, that line just gives them an idea. Something as simple as that gives them the prompt needed that something belongs on this other side of the equal sign, okay? Here we go, 4 plus 3. So I'm going to say, when I do it with my students, I go 4 plus 3, 4, and maybe you're giving them the prompt, just like we did with the visual adding, 4, 5, and they go on 6, 7. Sorry, it's all shifting. Again, you can just easily do this on a piece of paper. Take 2 different colors. One color is for the addition problem. The second is for the touch points. So again, 4 plus 3. What is 4 plus 3? Plus 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And you're prompting as your student needs. 5 plus 5. What is 5 plus 5? 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. One step a way you could take this even further, and I did this intentionally, you can say to your student, holy moly, I see 2 numbers on here that are the same. Can you tell me which numbers are the same? And they might say to you, 10. They might circle. I'm not gonna. We'll see if I can do this. Maybe they go around and circle the numbers that are the same. You get the point. So anyways, that's just another way to take their learning to the next step. Not only are you adding addition problems, but you're comparing numbers. You might say, you're right, 10 is the same, and I see a 7. Is 7 less or is it more than 10? It's less than 10. You're right. The other thing I just wanted to touch on really quickly, and then we're gonna call it a quits, is there is a way to introduce these with touch points for higher sums. So for example, your student you might not be ready to introduce the double count on the 6, 7, 8, 9, okay? But you know that your student is able to solve and rote count above 10, so sums above 10. One way to do that is by creating problems where the first number is 10 and above, and the second number is 5 and below, okay? So you're increasing the sum without introducing the double-digit touch point number. So if I say 10 plus 5, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. We have a higher sum while still focusing on using the one touch points. 19 plus 3, 19 plus 3, 19, 20, 21, 22. Okay, so yeah, we could have said, 9 plus, 13. But instead of having to teach your student right now for the moment how to double count these dots, unless they're able to do so, I'm not saying go for it if they can, it's totally fine to hit these higher sums while using the lower numbers to add on from. The last thing I just want to touch on this is that don't be afraid to use the strategies that we used when creating the visual addition problems can also be used while doing the touch points. So that just means that if my student can rote count to 50, but they need a prompt to do the first one, I'm going to say 21 plus 4, 21, hand under hand, 22, hand under hand, but they count, 23, hand under hand, but they count, 24, hand under hand, but they count, 25. Again, if your student is unable to write these numbers, that's okay. You can give them 2 numbers. If your problem was 21 plus 4, hold up 2 numbers. Hold up a 25 and a 17 and ask them what they counted, okay? Different modes to present these addition problems, both touch points and visuals give your learner more opportunities to use their skills throughout their schooling and throughout their life skill opportunities. So anyways, I hope that was helpful in some way. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. Again, we'll keep posting things as long as they're helping people, but just know we miss your kiddos and we hope everyone's home, they're healthy and staying safe, and just let us know if you need anything. Thanks.